Just taking a short moment to invoke Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's presence. So I have to keep reminding myself again and again that we don't need these sessions actually. But as Mother has said, that Savitri, just to read Savitri all by oneself, like a mantra, how is it? It is a mantric reading. So just reading Savitri every day by yourself, according to Mother has said that the proper way we can do that, and the sadhana will happen just through that continuous disciplined reading. And yet we are doing this gustaki of reflecting upon lines of Savitri, because we know that somewhere at times we also need that, because we are thinking about something or the other in our head. So why not think about these lines? In that sense, we are doing these sessions. Otherwise, we are totally dispensable, and we all know that we don't have to like show up also. So, although, yeah.
It is essential
Yeah.
sometimes. Like it is essential in the sense sometimes we are lost in our
Mm,
I'm back, and this is our family. This is
mm,
our true family. I was thinking about this. This is true, our family.
mm,
This family is there for whom we are doing our duties. But this is family which is doing for ourselves, which I
mm,
realized today.
mm,
And I was thinking about Tamas Hoti Hai. And the moment I opened Savitri, I do read it. And those lines were the answer by the mother. Um, at present, it is not here.
mm,
That it is but natural. Our
mm,
mind wanders in this
mm,
worldly matters, and then that little push or movement is there which brings you here. So
mm.
you find that this is the true life. So these sessions are also essential.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I was just sharing that it is a gustaki, and if we are
It is not
benefiting
Gustaki.
benefiting
It
by
is
that
you
gustaki.
are doing पुण्य का काम कर रहे हैं आप खींच खींच के हम लोगों को ला रहे हैं कभी
Yeah,
कभी वो जो लेक्चर होता है ना कि वो थप्पड़ पड़ता है तो वो आंखें जागती हैं वो
yeah, that's
जरूरी होता है
yeah, yeah.
तो गुरु
True,
कोई भी
true.
हो सकता है वो
Yeah,
छोटा बड़ा कोई भी हो सकता है
true, true, true. Yeah. So today, since I was going through these lines that we have to read today and reflect upon, it occurred to me that maybe it would be beneficial for us to read, just like we do the readings in Patchakra. Just read the two chapters from the Synthesis of Yoga, the Cosmic Consciousness and Oneness, because the lines that we read today are kind of going in that direction, and I thought we can just like open this window for us to go and touch that space of what kind of a realization is that, where one feels just a oneness. Right now that oneness is in our mind maybe at times, but we are not in practice, we are not with that oneness. In practice we still feel me and the other, and all the things are there, that separation is there. But according to Sri Aurobindo and of course many masters, this is a practical realization, where in our body we have a practical realization of this cosmic spirit or further oneness, where everything that we touch and feel and see is just the divine only. And there is no doubt about it, like it's unquestionable, it is our experience. So we'll touch upon that space also later, after we take up some lines from Savitri today. So we are on book 2, the book of the traveler of the worlds, where Ashwapati is ascending now, seeing in front of him this planes of consciousness, the world stare, and later on he will go into these planes of consciousness one by one and experience them fully in each plane of consciousness, which earlier he was looking at like a ladder in front of him. So this canto is the world stare, and it's page 96. We can start taking up new lines already. So anyone would like, you can read
Yes,
the line.
I would read. I would
Yes.
read. Book 2, the book of the traveler of the words. All came at once into his single view. Nothing escaped his vast intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel as kin. He was one spirit with that immensity.
Yeah. Thank you. So he's, last time we were reading, how he's able to witness all this creation happening. And we were reading how a self creation without end or pause. So he's able to see this self creation now manifesting in front of him. For us, it is like, okay, we can think about it, we can read about it, but we don't know that it is in actuality there happening, right? So he sees this self creation without end or pause. And this reminds of us of that Kabir song where he talks about अवधूता युगन युगन हम योगी आवे ना जावे मिटे ना कबहू. And then he shares in one of the stanzas in that song, he shares अपनी ही मड़ी में आप मैं खेलूं. So it is my own creation and all the forms are my own manifestation. So that kind of a self creation where there is no difference, no separation. A self creation without end or pause, he sees, revealed the grandeurs of the infinite, and it flung into the hazards of its play a million moods, a myriad energies. So it's like a Leela that is happening in front, and for that Leela, for the play to happen, it throws in million moods so that it gives it variety and colors and brilliance, and all kind of things are available, myriad energies. The world shapes that are fancies of its truth and the formulas of the freedom of its force. It poured into the ever stable's flux, a Bacchic rapture and revel of ideas. So all this is abundantly poured in this creation that is manifesting in front of him. There rose unborn into the unchanging surge thoughts that abide in their deathless consequence, words that immortal last though fallen mute, acts that brought out from silence its dumb sense. So all this we have touched upon earlier. Lines that convey the inexpressible. The eternal's stillness saw in unmoved joy his universal power at work display. So the eternal, the supreme Purusha, he is so delighted with this manifestation that has come up forth. The divine mother or Aditi, the Shakti coming out of that supreme Purusha, it is now at play. That power is at play with myriad energies and million moods. And the eternal is like for delight, he's just having a delight in that play of forces. So the eternal's stillness saw in unmoved joy, and we have touched upon that unmoved joy also last time. His universal power at work display in plots of pain and dramas of delight. So we all have these variety of shades in our life. And Sri Aurobindo shares that for us human beings, it appears like, oh, there is something like pain, and from pain I have to run away, and from towards pleasure I have to go. But actually, if we increase our consciousness and grow in consciousness, then we can see that there is a delight in pain also. And Sri Aurobindo talks about that delight when he talks about a scorpion which stung Sri Aurobindo while he was walking on the terrace. And there are a few lines that he wrote. Just a moment, I'll pick them out so that I can share it with you. Yeah, so he says, while on a terrace, hushed, I walked at night. He came and stung my foot. My soul surprised, rejoiced in lovers' contact. But the mind thought of a scorpion and was snared by forms. So again, very honestly, that mind sees it as a scorpion. Oh my God, like a poisonous thing. But he says, my soul surprised, rejoiced in lover's contact. So the soul sees everything as if the touch of a beloved, in that creation. But the mind, this limited mind, it thought of a scorpion and was snared by forms. Still my soul remembered its delight, denying mind, and midst the body pain, I laughed contented. So this he wrote on his experience of this scorpion bite. But Shraddhavan was sharing that when his hip bone broke, then he shared that it was not easy to change that pain into delight. Like there, it did not come like, wow, touch of my beloved. Yeah. So,
Because it was due to dark forces.
hmm. So here, in plots of pain and dramas of delight,
Right.
the wonder and beauty of her will to be, the will of Prakriti and the creative force, all, even pain, was the soul's pleasure here. So, in this plane of consciousness, he sees that it's not that I have to try pain being a touch of a beloved. It is actually delight. Pain is delightful, the plane of consciousness that he sees in front of him. All, even pain, was the soul's pleasure here. Here, all experience was a single plan, the thousandfold expression of the One. All came at once into his single view. Nothing escaped his vast intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel as kin. हमें कितनी मुश्किल होती है जब हम इस डिवाइसिव कॉन्शियसनेस में जीते हैं, जिसमें मैं अलग और कोई और अलग, मैं अलग और कोई और अलग, वहां पे हमको कितनी मुश्किल होती है ये जानने में कि, है ना, कि यार ये भी तो डिवाइन ही है. बहुत मुश्किल होती है. वी रियली हैव लॉट्स ऑफ ट्रबल इन सीइंग अवर सो कॉल्ड एनिमी और अ पर्सन दैट वी डोंट लाइक रियली as this is me. We can't really, we don't have that realization in us because we live in that separative divisive consciousness, this little entity called me, and then there is other. So he says that in this oneness, in this different space of consciousness that he is in, all came at once into his single view. At other places, Sri Aurobindo talks about this limited mind's view, and he talks about it as a clipped window outlook. तो आप एक छोटी सी आपकी विंडो है, उसमें से आप देख रहे हैं और इतना दिख रहा है, जैसे घोड़े के लेफ्ट राइट पे वो लगा देते हैं, उसको सिर्फ इतना सा दिखता है. So that is how we see. And we don't have that single view, a single view which has everything, which embraces everything. But in this view that he now has, all came at once into his single view. And this is a practical realization which all of us can move towards and have to move towards. Not only we have to read it and understand, but also make it happen in our being, slowly with effort and discipline. Nothing escaped his vast intuitive sight. Nothing drew near he could not feel as kin. He was one spirit with that immensity. So it also reminds me of Mirabai's experience of taking poison, just like, something coming from Krishna, and nothing happens to her. So I don't know what kind of a state of being she may be in. Of course, I can't comment on that, hardly know anything, but I feel that this is that state of oneness where everything is just one beloved's touch and nothing is separate from that. So that is also our possibility. And this is a practical realization, not only a mental theoretical understanding, but has to be for us a practical realization. Yeah, anything here, anyone? Okay, so if not, then we take these new lines. If anyone would like to read, please unmute.
Yes. Images in a supernal consciousness embodying the unborn who never dies, the structured visions of the cosmic self, alive with the touch of being's eternity, looked at him like form bound spiritual thoughts, figuring the movements of the ineffable.
So supernal, whenever we use the word supernal, it is something which is just like of beyond, something really above us and transcending. So images in a supernal consciousness, embodying the unborn who never dies. The structured visions of the cosmic self, alive with the touch of being's eternity, looked at him. So all these, from infinity comes finiteness. So from that which is infinite, which is formless, that gives rise to forms. It creates forms. So from those unborn heights, he's having like as if a look of images, the images when they start to form, and those images are now looking at him, Ashwapati. Alive with the touch of being's eternity, looked at him like form bound spiritual thoughts, figuring the movements of the ineffable. So each thing in manifestation is very symbolic and has a truth behind it. Each form, each finite form that we see, each letter, each symbol, each diagram, everything that we have in manifestation has a truth behind it, which is hidden. And because it is coming all from truth, all those forms and images and limitations are coming from truth. So they represent something. And now he can see those creations in front of him, that how out of formlessness forms are arising, images are arising. It is happening in front of him. And they are looking at him like form bound spiritual thoughts, figuring the movements of the ineffable, that which cannot be explained. But they are it is put in defined forms. So that is happening in front of him. He sees it happening. ये लाइंस पढ़ के बार बार ये लगता है कि कितना कुछ है करने के लिए, हम कहाँ खो जाते हैं कहाँ कैसे, मतलब आई फील दैट ये कितनी ब्लाइंडनेस है, मे बी दैट इज व्हाट दे कॉल ignorance, that we are so blind. Really, we read these beautiful lines every week or maybe more, and then we see that, oh, there is a task in front of us, so much is to be attained, reclaimed, whatever you can use the word, and yet we fall again into our daily, busy patterns or whatever we are busy with, and we forget the task at hand. Anything outer becomes so important. उसने मुझे कैसे बोल दिया, आज मेरे साथ ये हो गया, those things really weigh so heavy on us, the sensory inputs. So I often wonder about my blindness, and I wonder about it daily actually, that how can I be so blind, how can I be so blind, but I am so blind. The blindness is also a fact, and that is why, as Anjali ji was sharing in the beginning, that it's good to remind ourselves that there is a work at hand, there is a work at hand, because we
And
forget.
I feel trapped.
Yeah.
I feel trapped. Even if we do all these things, don't think about others, but there are things, there are situations where your body is here and your situation is there. So the one thing we can do, I was just thinking that this task, this is not possible in one life. Thinking about कि दूसरे में भी divine है, it can be started, but it can't be achieved in this one life. But still, it is good to remind ourselves.
Yeah,
Good to start and good to remind ourselves.
True.
But that feeling of being trapped is there.
It is there, and I think it's good that we are feeling now not very happy with that trappy feeling.
So that, yes.
So that the task can happen.
Yes.
So we were reading, me and Taru, we were reading something today, and I would like to put it up for reflection, because it actually hit at the root of our suffering. So this is in Synthesis of Yoga, page number 679. This one. So he shares here liberation of the spirit, this trappedness that you were talking of, that we feel trapped. So he talks about that root, the crux of the matter, and he shares here what is stopping us actually, what is our bondage. He talks about that bondage, the sense, the idea, the experience that I am a separate, self-existent being in the universe, and the forming of consciousness and force of being into the mold of that experience, that I am a separate, limited individual, are the root of suffering, all suffering, ignorance and evil. So इसमें हम सब फंसे हुए हैं. Belief in a limited, separate, self-existent self as me, and then there is the rest of others, the rest of the universe. And he says what it does is, and it is so because that falsifies both in practice and in cognition the whole real truth of things. It limits the being, limits the consciousness, limits the power of our being, limits the bliss of being. This limitation again produces a wrong way of existence, wrong way of consciousness, wrong way of using the power of our being and consciousness, and wrong, perverse, contrary forms of the delight of existence. So what he is sharing here is that our belief in a separate self-existent self as me, this little me who ends where the body ends, this is the root of all suffering and ignorance and evil. And then he shares that why it is the root of suffering, because believing in this limited little self, the way I look at the world is a perverted way of looking. It is a wrong way of looking. And because of that, I don't see things as they really, really are. Because I continue to live from this sense of lack. Because if I consider myself a limited person, then of course I'm lacking, right? And all the time we have this or that ambition or desire or whatever, demands from this worldly life. Why? Because I want to fulfill that desire now through the manifestation. Because I feel a deep lack inside me. So he hits at the root that if we don't deal with this problem, believing in this little limited me, and that is my true identity, not realizing who I truly am, not doing the inner discipline and practice for that realization which is possible, then it will actually lead to a false way of living and a wrong way. Actually, he uses, I don't see usually, I have never seen Sri Aurobindo using the word wrong way. But here, for the first time in my readings at least, I can see he uses it 3 times. Wrong way of existence, wrong way of consciousness, wrong way of using the power of our being and consciousness, and wrong, perverse and contrary forms of the delight of existence. क्योंकि मजा हमको चाहिए, delight हमको चाहिए. So how will have I will have delight as a limited being? I will have my perverted ways of having delight, because I have gotten disconnected from my true delight of existence. So this is the root
And what
of
are those perverted way of delight?
the way in which we, like how we feel so aggrandized when I am found right, I am the right one. How as egos, we have ego clashes and we want to dominate and we want to dictate that no, mere hisab se hona chahiye. So that is my way of self-aggrandization. कि क्योंकि because I'm constantly feeling this being a limited person, how I aggrandize myself, how I feel full by dominating, by trying to control other people. And later on, Sri Aurobindo in this paragraph says, there's this mastery that I want over other people and the situations. Actually, this is my true birthright. But as a spirit, because the spirit is in possession of the whole world. The spirit is master, but the ego can never be the master. So he says that it's like a distorted perception of truth that we have. कहीं ना कहीं हमको एक memory है that I'm supposed to be the master. है ना, but वो as a spirit है. The ego, no matter how hard it tries to grasp at things, it can never ever get fulfilled by that grasping, because that is not the design of the creation. So by that, this is my perverted way of, fulfilling myself. All the ways in which the ego tries to fulfill itself through other people, through relationships, through respect, name, fame, these are all perverted ways. Ambitions, greed, lust, these are all ways, perversions, so that I can fulfill that lack which is in me. Rather than doing this continuously, life after life, if now I have a little mental realization at least, what I can do is, can I work within myself to get rid of this complete idea that I am not this limited being that I call myself or think myself to be. But for that, we need a lot of discipline. That is why people have to do so much of sadhana. We see yogis, seers doing so much sadhana, because it has to be a practical realization in the body that we know ourselves not as that little limited self. सिर्फ पढ़ने से काम नहीं चलेगा. It has to be a practical realization. Padna can be a starting, understanding, like Mother says that if you want to be wise, reach Sri Aurobindo. So Padna can be a starting, but that practical realization has to happen in the body. And my interactions with the life will tell me how good is my realization, because there, if I continue to act as this limited self and the other person, then it means my realization is not complete. It is just a theoretical understanding in my head. So my interactions with the world are our test. How much is the realization really concrete in me? That is why we have so many practices for self-realization. Actually, I feel that self-realization is not just for yogis and seers and masters. It is for each one of us, because otherwise we have miserable lives, really. If we continue living like little egos, our lives are so miserable. Who wants that misery? So it is actually our birthright to have a true self-realization of a relative degree, of course. And here Sri Aurobindo shares later that how it continues to increase. मतलब अभी यहाँ पे भी काम खत्म नहीं हुआ, अच्छा अभी कॉस्मिक हो गया, अभी और भी आगे, अच्छा वननेस आ गई, अभी और भी आगे. So he never stops. He gives us more and more, employment. और अभी तो हम आगे इतना सा बढ़े हैं कि चलो ये पढ़ना तो शुरू किया है, but again I think to each his own, but we have to make it more like grain of our being. अभी हमारा जो
ईगो को समझना भी, ईगो को भी समझना, सेल्फ ऑब्जर्वेशन में कि ये जो मेरा इंटरेक्शन था, भले निकल गया कि ये मेरा ईगो था. इवन जैसे ऑन सरफेस आई थिंक यू आर सेइंग समथिंग एंड आई डोंट अग्री विद यू, और I am saying something and you are not doing that thing according to me. So on surface, I'll say that, okay, as whatever you want. But inside that anger, that frustration is there. So that I agree with you that we think that मेरा तो अब ईगो नहीं है, मैं तो ईगो नहीं दिखाती हूँ. नहीं, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है. वो ईगो हम दिखाते नहीं है, लेकिन वो होता है बैकग्राउंड में. तभी तो वो जो दो फायर है ना, इट इज लाइक राख ऑन, आग के ऊपर जो राख है, दैट इज व्हाई वी डोंट फील वो जो रियल हैप्पीनेस होती है, आनंदमयी, चैतन्यमयी. तो वो कौन सा आनंद है, जो वो कैसा आनंद है जो बिना किसी चीज के वो आनंद मिलता रहता है.
True. Mother says that it's often, I think I had shared it in some group. Let me just bring it up. So today I was reading, some poster came in front. Yeah, this one. Mother shares, each one has his ego and all the egos are at odds with one another. So what you were sharing.
I also read this message, yes.
Yeah.
But
it is only when one gets rid of the ego that one becomes a free being. ठीक है. तो मदर के साथ हमेशा हम देखते हैं कि पहले she gives us the problem and then she shares the remedy with us. So she's sharing that it is only when one gets rid of the ego that one becomes a free being. So one can ask how to be free, how to be rid of the ego. She shares, to be free, one must belong only to the divine. ये हमारी प्रॉब्लम है और ये हमारा सॉल्यूशन भी है. So all the thoughts, all the feelings, if we feel that now for this life and this point in my life, now this has become utmost necessity, then consciously all the thoughts and all the feelings have to be just turned to the divine. तो ये जो हमारा जो दिमाग भरा रहता है दूसरों के ख्यालों से, इसका त्याग करके, क्योंकि ये उचित नहीं है.
And I found the best practice is this being feeling the presence of mother. जब भी ज्यादा शोर हो तो बस तुरंत सब चीज शांति शांति माँ माँ माँ, and then you focus on your breathing, and then for some time again the mind will go there, but again the coming back to your breathing, coming back to feeling the presence of the mother helps quite a lot.
And also
This
I
is
think
also good practice.
we have to get convinced that देखो अगर हमको अभी भी कुछ चाहिए संसार से, माँ के चरणों के बाद भी हम बड़े वो हैं ग्रीडी. अगर माँ के चरणों के बाद भी अभी हमें कुछ चाहिए है तो मैं परेशान होऊंगी. तो जब भी मैं परेशान होती हूँ तो मैं आई कैन जस्ट आस्क माई सेल्फ कि अच्छा अभी और भी कुछ चाहिए
क्या कर.
And then I can, as you said, then one can bring oneself back. कि actually में नहीं चाहिए. That is enough. With mother's feet are enough. Mother in my heart and me in the heart of the mother. All that is just more than enough. Not even enough. Like we are blessed that in this very life we have that opportunity.
Yes.
For that intimate communion. है ना?
Yes.
तो I think जहाँ जहाँ मेरी परेशानी मुझ पे हावी होती है, wherever the outer circumstances feel a little bit more overwhelming, there I can always ask this question कि अच्छा इसमें से कुछ चाहिए अभी क्या? And then one can have the true attitude. It's not that one will be passive in that circumstance, but one will be able to take much more a calmer decision because आपको कुछ चाहिए नहीं है उसमें से.
True.
And this we continue every day because since it is not a stabilized state within, so we have to practice unless it becomes an effortless state that any other turn is not possible. For me right now, other turns are possible. So I have to keep practicing and bringing the mind again in gathered and asking myself, do I need anything from anything outwardly? And if I don't need, then of course there is no need for agitation and anxiety and worry, and the action or the thing, whatever has to be done, will be done. But without that restlessness that comes from time to time in us, कि अगर कुछ वहाँ हो गया तो कुछ खो जाएगा, और अगर कुछ वहाँ नहीं हुआ तो कुछ मिल जाएगा, कुछ ऐसा जो दिमाग में लगा रहता है. To know that we have actually already found the biggest thing that is to be found. It is just a point of being loyal to that thing that we have found.
True. This is the correct word or sentence.
Anything more, anyone? Yes, Parul?
Like Anjali just shared, that focus back on your breath and focus back on the presence of the mother. That's one way by which we can at least loosen ourselves from that situation जहाँ हम बहुत grip feel कर रहे हैं. I was realizing, and you were talking about wanting कि अभी कुछ और चाहिए और क्या चाहिए. Another one thing that I've sometimes noticed works for me is belief in this phrase that wanting is in the way of having. What you want, you cannot have, because the energy is of lack. And when I first read this, it was a few months ago, and it was a very funny instance. There was a bag, and I was looking for something. I think I was looking for my crochet hook, and last ध्यान ये था कि ये bag में है. I wanted the hook, and I recognized कि वो इधर तो नहीं है, नहीं दिख रहा. Lots of things in the bag, and then I approached the bag with the way कि इसी में है. I already have what I want. I already have what I seek. And if this is the truth, अब कैसे आप approach करोगे? It was magical. I had already seen the bag. मैंने दोबारा उसको खाली किया बहुत ही calmly with a very different energy, saying, I already have what I want. It came out from that bag. It literally manifested in that bag. So it does not only work for material things. I mean, material उसमें work करके वो it almost looks magical and miraculous. But especially for things that you said, you know, the intangibles, जिनके पीछे हम इतने crazily भाग रहे हैं. If I believe I want a new car, what I actually want is the sense of largeness or bigness, or the sense of having achieved something, the sense of having become something. Or if I'm conflating it with respect, I want a big car because the big car will get me respect. So what I believe is I do not have respect. And that wanting continues to keep that respect eluding me. Sometimes, so one of the things that sometimes works for me is just reminding myself that wanting is in the way of having. As soon as I let go of the want and approach it from the fact that I already have it, and then I already have everything. In this moment, I already have everything, and that really soothes something very deeply within. कि already है. तो हम ढूंढ रहे पेंसिल नहीं मिल रही, पेंसिल नहीं मिल रही, पेंसिल मेरे पास already है. I've noticed it so many times. I mean, it's almost become like a fun game. Material चीजों में भी कोई चीज छोटी सी नजर नहीं आ रही, मिल नहीं रही, वो जितना desperately हम ढूंढ रहे हैं वो उतना desperately घूमती चली जा रही है. And just that shanti, that energy change, it may not manifest immediately, but कुछ time के बाद वो, you know, नजर आ जाती है पड़ी हुई कहीं पे. So many times I've experienced this that I really feel that this might actually be, you know, the lines that you read, ki, we already have everything. So that means I cannot exist as a separate self. Na? I can only be everything. That is how I have everything.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Very true.
यहाँ पे भी हम थोड़ी ना कभी कभी घपलेबाजी करते हैं, क्योंकि आई रिमेम्बर एट टाइम्स experimenting with this sense of working from a sense of lack and sense of abundance. तो एक दो बार मेरी बात हो रही थी पता नहीं किसी से, तो उसमें आई शेयर दिस दैट कभी कभी क्या होता है कि हमको लगता है चालाक है ना हम सब, तो हमें लगता है कि वो बेसिक इनर शिफ्ट जो है, डीप सेंस ऑफ डीप विद इन, यू नो, आई हैव टू शिफ्ट समथिंग, सेंस ऑफ अबंडेंस, सेंस ऑफ लैक से सेंस ऑफ अबंडेंस में आना है. तो ऊपर ऊपर से जब ये पहली बार पता लगती है ना बात, तो ऐसे होता है कि आई थिंक कि अच्छा मैं ऐसा ना प्रिटेंड करती हूँ कि अरे मिला ही तो तो अंदर से आपको लैक फील हो रहा है, बट ऊपर से आप अबंडेंस फील करना चाह रहे हो ऑन द सर्फेस, बट दैट ऑल्सो नेवर वर्क्स. That as if you are waiting for that. The thing is that we have to stop waiting for that thing. What Parul was sharing, you know, so knowing that whether I get it or not get it, I am abundant, है ना. तो अब मिल जाए तो बोनस, नहीं मिले तो भी आई एम खुश. और कभी कभी क्या होता है, हम इस जैसे एग्जांपल देती हूँ, यू नो, फ्यू ऑफ माय फ्रेंड्स में बी सीकिंग पार्टनर्स, हैव नॉट येट गॉट पार्टनर्स. जैसे कब मिलेगा कब मिलेगा, तो कभी अबंडेंस से काम करते हैं, अबंडेंस से काम करते थे, तो ऊपर से उनको लग रहा है कि अरे मैं अबंडेंस से ही तो काम कर रही हूँ, बट अंदर से अभी भी वो ढूंढना जा रही है,
ढूंढना चालू है.
हाँ, तो वो ढूंढना अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है, मतलब वो सेंस नहीं आई है कि आई एम एनफ इन माई सेल्फ, आई हैव एवरीथिंग, नो पर्सन कैन गिव मी कंप्लीशन, यू नो. तो वो अंदर से पूरा शिफ्ट ऑफ एटीट्यूड चेंज हुआ नहीं है, और ऊपर से हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं दिखाने की कि अरे अबंडेंस ही तो है, बट कोने कोने से छुप के ढूंढ भी रहे हैं कि कब आएगा कब आएगा. तो वो यहाँ पे काम नहीं करता. जस्ट वांटेड टू काइंड ऑफ ऐड ऑन.
मेरा एक डिलेमा है एंड आई सीक इन दिस डिस्कशन जो है.
हाँ,
यूपीएससी में मेरे 3 चेक पड़े हुए हैं, मेरे काम किए हुए, जो मैंने कभी ध्यान नहीं दिया, फिर सडनली मुझे लगा कि वो मिलना चाहिए जो भी है, और वो नहीं मिल रहा. उन्होंने कहा चेक आपके यहाँ चला गया, मैंने रिसीव नहीं किया, मैं बैंक चली गई, सारा मैंने रिकॉर्ड निकाल लिया. और ये वांटिंग नहीं है, आई डोंट वांट मनी, बट सिंस आई हैव डन वर्क समवेयर, दैट मनी इज देयर एंड इट शुड बी यूज समवेयर इन ए गुड पर्पस, तो वो गवर्नमेंट में नहीं रहना चाहिए. वो नहीं मिल रहा, एक वो परेशान कर रहा है, और दूसरा लाइक पारुल वाज सेइंग, वो जर्नी में होता है ना, लोग एडवाइस करते हैं थोड़ा यहाँ डाल दो, थोड़ा वहां डाल दो, पैसा डाल दो, अब वो याद ही नहीं है कहाँ डाला। अब मैं प्रे करी हूँ, माँ कहाँ डाला, सारी पॉकेट देख लिया, सारी पॉकेट देख लिया, फिर सोचे अब ठीक है, अब मिलेगा मिलेगा, जब देखा जाएगा, कभी तो मिलेगा, वो कहीं ना कहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि वो कहीं जाना नहीं चाहिए, वो मेरा ऐसी कमाई नहीं है जो वैसी है, वो मिलनी चाहिए, वो मेहनत की चीज है। तो ये, और वो सेल्फ कंडमनेशन इतना ज्यादा अपने ऊपर हो गया, कंसंट्रेशन नहीं है, रोज पढ़ते हैं मदर का, कंसंट्रेशन से काम करो, शांति से काम करो, व्हेन देयर इज ए काम एंड क्वाइट माइंड देन थिंग्स विल बी देयर, तो वो सेल्फ कंडमनेशन शुरू हो जाता है। सो व्हाट शुड आई डू?
No, it's
आस्क
so
मदर।
funny. It's so funny that the meaning of this is that you'll get something when it stops mattering to you. You know, you'll get it when it truly stops mattering to you. And again, I have asked this question once to a guru where, you know, कि acceptance नहीं है. बहुत strong belief है that I deserve this, for example, this money or this check. And the right thing is for me to get it. And ये जो है अभी वो acceptable नहीं है. So I was really struggling with this once where I said, I cannot accept जो अभी है. So the answer was, accept your non-acceptance of it. मेरे से ये तो नहीं कहा जा रहा कि ये सिचुएशन ठीक है, पर मैं इस चीज को तो एक्सेप्ट कर सकती हूँ that right now I'm very agitated and I don't think this is right. I can accept my non-acceptance of it. And I had to actually go several layers out क्योंकि ये भी नहीं एक्सेप्ट किया जा रहा, अपने आप से भी एक्सपेक्टेशंस बहुत हैं, तो इतना पढ़ लिख के या इतना समझदार होके या इतना प्रैक्टिस करके फिर ये भी नहीं हो रहा, तो एक तो हमें वो सिचुएशन एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है. That is one level of non-acceptance. The second level is we are non-accepting of our own attitude towards the situation. Then the third level, you know, so we continue to be non-accepting now. So continue to go what she recommended, and this is something that I applied, and it was immensely relieving. कि नहीं एक्सेप्ट कर पा रहे सिचुएशन, एक्सेप्टिंग द नॉन एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ इट, और एक्सेप्ट द नॉन एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ द नॉन एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ इट. गेटिंग कि बाहर 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 आके एक पॉइंट आएगा जहां पे देयर विल बी एक थोड़ी सी गांठ खुलती है, एंड वेयर दैट आई एम एबल टू एक्सेप्ट, आई एम एबल टू एक्सेप्ट दैट मुझसे ये भी नहीं एक्सेप्ट किया जा रहा कि मैं इतनी नॉन एक्सेप्टिंग हूँ ऑफ दिस सिचुएशन विच इज सो नॉन एक्सेप्टेबल. एंड व्हेन दैट लिटिल ग्रेन ऑफ एक्सेप्टेंस कम्स, वो फिर धीरे 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 expand करके you know it reaches the core and you start to accept everything. So right now don't again this is something that because I struggle the most with this and practically I found when there was a time a couple of months ago I was in extreme pain physically and आप कुछ कर नहीं सकते, मतलब आप दर्द में हो, दर्द है, आप रो लो, चिल्ला लो, दवा ले लो, जो मर्जी कर लो, सप्रेस करने की कोशिश, वो नहीं जा रहा, वो है एक, यू नो, इज दैट आप थक जाते हो. देयर इज अ पॉइंट, यू नो, व्हेन यू गेट सो टायर्ड ऑफ दैट पेन एंड व्हेन यू गेट टायर्ड यू लाइक रिलीज. एंड आई रियलाइज व्हेन दैट मोमेंट ऑफ रिलीज, जहां मुझे लगा कि अब जो करना है ना कर लो मेरे साथ, मतलब उठाना है उठा लो, जो करना है कर लो, बिकॉज द पेन वाज सो, एंड द मोमेंट आई रिलीज द पेन ईज. So I realized it was that holding on, जहाँ पे पेन है, जैसे आपके जिस भी एरिया में पेन है बॉडी के, हम मसल्स को टेंस कर लेते हैं, टाइट कर लेते हैं. एंड व्हेन आई फाइनली, all through the day, all through the night, सुबह 4-5 बज गए थे, it had been hours of pain. I think it is the same thing with acceptance कि हम accept नहीं कर रहे, नहीं कर रहे, नहीं कर रहे, ये भी ठीक नहीं है, ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं है, या कोई एक ही चीज को पकड़ के वो ठीक नहीं है, ठीक नहीं है, ठीक नहीं है, वो हमारी एनर्जी और सब कुछ वहां लग जाती है. एंड कॉन्शियसली या सबकॉन्शियसली फिर एक पॉइंट आता है जहां आप नहीं होल्ड ऑन कर सकते एनी लॉन्गर, एंड वेन यू लेट गो, एंड व्हेन दैट लेट्स गो, दैट इज व्हेन द एनर्जी रिलीजेस, यू ब्रीथ इजी, यू आर ओके, एंड वो ओकेनेस वहां से शुरू होती है, एंड देन दैट causes the healing of the circumstance or the pain or whatever. वो मिलता तब है जब वो मैटर करना बंद हो जाता है कि अब करना है कर लो, पेन चल रही है चले, यू नो, वेयर दैट पॉइंट कम्स वेयर यू आर लाइक अब मैंने रिलीज कर दिया है, it doesn't matter, and that is when it magically manifests. and the manifesting will also not have that wow excitement with it. वहां पे भी एक बड़ा equanimity सा होता है, अच्छा ठीक है आ गया चलो अच्छी बात, और नहीं आया तो भी वो इक्वल, वो एक इक्वानिमिटी, एक वो समता जिसे कहते हैं बुद्धिज्म में, समभाव सा।
समता ही करेक्ट
तो
वर्ड है,
right.
equality.
So I struggled very much with that non-acceptance, and I realized, and this worked for me, ki layers upon layers. Somewhere you have to accept your reaction to it, your response to it, your current feeling towards it, your thought towards it. You have to accept how much it matters to you right now. You have to accept how strongly you feel you deserve it. Somewhere you have to accept ki, okay, this is the current reality of what is. It will change and it will change. It may not change ever. That's also okay. Somewhere that okayness has to come in. वो जहां से भी शुरू होगी वो पूरे उसको कलर कर देगी.
That I agree. This acceptance I realized in interpersonal relationship. Till you don't accept others with everything, the problem is there in interpersonal. But with the personal, what you are sharing, that gives me some insight. The pain you are talking about, experience the same thing. When you accept ki ye hai, you can't do anything. I had herpes in my eyes. Just imagine people ask herpes when I had no herpes, then I couldn't tell. Now I can tell जितने भी तरह के पेन हो सकते हैं वो herpes में, वो आंख में कोई कहेगा जैसे चाकू चल रही है, जैसे आग लगी है क्या, and then I simply said, mother, you have given it, I don't know, and you won't believe, I accepted it and I offered it to mother only, and I felt that she has taken me in her lap. वो कोई भी लोग पूछ रहे तुम कोई है, मैं कह रहा हाँ माँ है मेरे साथ, माँ है मेरे साथ, एंड आई एंजॉयड दैट पीरियड कि वो आंख बंद कर लिया, ठीक है हो गई, 1 महीने की छुट्टी मिल गई, कुछ का पढ़ना लिखना नहीं पड़ेगा. So
how beautiful.
yes,
If we can accept something as painful as herpes in the eye, then वही चीज है कि वो ठीक है, अब आपका चेक है, आपने रखा हुआ है, आप जब दोगे दे देना, एक पॉकेट से निकाल के आपने अपनी दूसरी पॉकेट में देना है.
And when doctor asked me, opened the eyes and she said, can you see? I guess, yes, I am seeing everything clearly. And she was surprised. And she said the same problem other patient had. She had to go to Delhi and she had to take injection of worth 60,000, something like that. But I only said कि मैं ललिता पवार की तरह हो गई, मेरी आधी आंख खुल रही. She said कि अभी तो इसमें बहुत टाइम लगेगा खुलने में, तो ठीक है ललिता पवार की तरह. कोई पूछा क्या, मैं ललिता पवार की तरह हो गई. So when you can laugh on yourself, it's easy to handle all these things. But what you said is acceptance is in every step, it is essential to accept it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, both of you. Thank you. It's okay to be not okay.
It's okay to be not okay, right?
Interesting. Yeah, anything more, anyone?
I think Rupert Spira says, I think Monica, you have shared this example before, I remember, but he says it very interestingly that if you're not able to, like resist something, for example, I was, trying to be off sugar. I think, okay, I'm gonna do it, or intermittent fasting. I have these some of the times I'm going to do this and do that. And then, I've always been fond of sugar, especially in tea and coffee, and I resisted very long, very long. And everybody used to keep saying, I know it's a very small example, but everybody used to say, you try it for 2 weeks without sugar, and then your taste will develop where you will not need sugar. In fact, you will vomit if you'll have tea or coffee with sugar. I tried for 7, 8, 9 days without sugar, but then also in my heart, that we were talking, that acceptance doesn't come. I said, it's not nice sugar with sugar, only tea is nice with sugar. So I stopped. I just switched to green tea. But every time it's like, I'll make tea myself, taste it without sugar. Even though I've accepted it, that, that acceptance of non-acceptance, still that little voice saying, it's still not good. So I just, thought, okay, I think that was that only you shared, or I actually heard Rupert Spira saying that if really you're not able to do it, then do it. Just, go ahead and do it. Like, don't torture yourself. The problem is that we start torturing, we listen to this हम कर भी नहीं पाते हैं ना, हम मुझे लगता है हम इतना टॉर्चर कर लेते हैं अपने आप को, अगर या तो हम कर ले, मुझे लगता है कि एक्सेप्टेंस आ ही जाए, फिर अभी नहीं आ रही है तो फिर कर लो, मतलब आई नाउ आई फील लाइक दैट देन माय experiences of life will really take me to a level where I will genuinely believe that okay, I do not need sugar, and that certainty is so deep, it's not mental, understanding, but a very deep, you can call it psychic, you can call it soul, but it's then no matter what happens, I will know from my own experience that in my case, sugar is not okay, because right now I've tried, it's not working. It's like a mind game. Do it, don't do it. I'm not enjoying my tea. I like my tea. I want to have sugar. So I started having sugar again. But what I did is maybe I gradually decreased it to in just one, but I still used to have it. And, so, and I was still so happy with my sugar. But now, suddenly, what happened 2-3 weeks ago, I intuitively said, okay, I can try. Now I can try maybe, I still feel like putting sugar. And actually, when I didn't put the sugar, I enjoyed the tea so much because I could I could actually taste the sweetness in the milk, but it was not mental. I don't know how to explain. It was not mental, but it was just intuitive, or it was just like, okay, like that. Now also, if I want to put sugar, I will put sugar. But even if it's not, I can have it. So I think that if we cannot do it, at least for myself, I feel like doing it. I learned that okay, this is not going to. For example, I have also have the feeling of people should speak nicely to me, or if this thing, and this thing, no matter how much I read that I am fulfilled in myself, I do not read, that thing doesn't go away. It's always there. That it really still makes me angry if somebody doesn't talk, like if somebody shouts, not sweetly, but if somebody doesn't talk to me not normally, like my father would get, really angry, or my partner, somebody sometimes, and I would say, like, why would you shout at me? It doesn't sit well with me. So, and I used to keep quiet and torture myself, but now I just say, no, it's not the right way to talk to me. Can you please not talk to me like that? You need to respect it. And now even with my dad, I said, so I actually do it now, So with acceptance, I only want to say, be conscious about that don't torture yourself, even if you can't accept. And of course, we can offer to the mother and also.
बिल्कुल, एब्सोल्युटली। नहीं रुका जा रहा तो देयर इज नो अदर पॉइंट, करके देख लो। काफी बार ये होता है कि जो करने वाली चीज है वो ऐसी होती है जैसे शादी। तो अब मैंने कितने ही दोस्तों को कन्विंस करने की कोशिश करी अपनी शादी के बाद कि भैया रहने दो, तुम बहुत अच्छी कंडीशन में हो और बिना बात के चैलेंज मत लो, या बच्चे समझ लो, कुछ भी ले लो। लेकिन एज नंदिनी वाज शेयरिंग कि उनको करके ही चैन पड़ता है, और काफी बार तो करके भी चैन नहीं पड़ता, और अभी उनको ये भी लग रहा है कि चलो इसमें नहीं मिला तो कहीं और मिलेगा मेरे को फुलफिलमेंट। तो ये है कि कभी कभी ये छोटी चीजें होती हैं करने वाली की चीनी। थैंक गॉड फॉर नंदिनी, यू हैव जस्ट चीनी। बट एट टाइम्स ये होते
No,
हैं
Monica, for me, marriage is also the same. I have done it. So don't worry.
या अभी तो और भी है, बच्चे भी हैं, अभी तो आगे कहानी बहुत लंबी है। या इट्स इंटरेस्टिंग एंड वेरी ट्रू।
कहा जाता है शादी वो लड्डू है
या
जो खाए वो पछता है, जो ना खाए वो पछता है।
हाँ, तो एक्चुअली बिना खाए मानता नहीं है मन, काफी जगह ना व्हाट नंदिनी वाज शेयरिंग कि बिना करे मानता नहीं है मन, and which is true, as Sri Aurobindo shares, that it's through our life experiences that our being assimilates and really grows in consciousness. So all the experiences, whether good or bad, evil or very beautiful, they are very welcome in the growth of consciousness. Yeah.
True.
Yes, Parul.
I was just wondering, the way Nandini said about sugar, giving yourself wholehearted permission, कि अच्छा ठीक है चीनी खानी है खा ले, nobody is stopping you and you have the full permission to go ahead and have it. Like I think she did that with herself. She started having it again, and then अपने आप ही organically, when the time is such or the alignment of some stars is such कि लगता है अच्छा बिना उसके try कर लेते हैं. But she said कि I didn't stop myself. I could have added it if I wanted to. So I think that's very beautiful कि वो organically you reach that point. Until you don't reach it organically, you don't force it upon yourself. So the acceptance of my non-acceptance of फीकी चाय कि मेरे से नहीं पी जाती फीकी चाय, मैं चीनी डाल के पी, and this I accept about myself. No, I think that is
Bilkul,
again,
yeah.
I mean, what she's talking about, that shift when it happened,
Yeah.
that shift again happened from acceptance of the fact कि मुझसे नहीं पी जाती फीकी चाय।
Yeah. और चीनी की जगह गुड़ डाल सकते हैं नंदिनी, रॉ शुगर डाल सकते हो, सफेद चीनी मत डालो।
Yeah,
बहुत
yeah,
बहुत तरीके हैं,
definitely. Yeah.
मीठा करने के बहुत तरीके हैं, शहद डाल लो। Yeah.
चाय में शहद,
हाँ, चाय में डल जाता है शहद, डालते हैं।
ग्रीन टी में डाल सकते हैं, दूध वाली में भी चाय।
डल जाता है, हाँ हाँ डल जाता है। वो अलग
अच्छा।
बात है कि उसका टेस्ट, सॉरी सॉरी टू डिफ्लेक्ट द डिस्कशन,
हाँ।
उसका टेस्ट इतना अपीलिंग नहीं लगता लोगों को, नाउ दैट वी आर टॉकिंग ऑफ टेस्ट, बट गुड गोज वेल, रॉ शुगर गोज वेल। सो नंदिनी, बाय रॉ शुगर, ऑर्गेनिक रॉ शुगर, हाँ, जब तक मीठे खाने का मन कर रहा है। या हेल्दी रहो, देखो हम तो चाहते हैं आप नंदिनी लॉन्ग लाइफ, हेल्दी लाइफ, इसलिए वाइट शुगर ज़्यादा मत यूज़ करो, हेल्दी रॉ शुगर यूज़ करो। हाँ, और किसी को अपने टेस्ट के बारे में कोई कहानी सुनानी है तो सुना सकते हैं। नाउ दैट
आज
वी आर
टेस्ट का सेशन है।
कोई समोसे पकोड़े, आजकल शादियों का सीजन है यहाँ पे इंडिया में, तो इट्स वेरी फ्रेश एंड अलाइव द मेमोरी। या एनीथिंग मोर, एनीवन? तो हम श्री अरबिंदो को कहते हैं कि हम यहाँ पे ब्रेक ले रहे हैं, अब एवरीबडी इज हाँ, सो आज थोड़ा सा ही किया हमने, बट आई थिंक इट वाज अ वर्दी डिस्कशन। सो we'll start again from page number 96, and we will also read next time, if time permits, two chapters quickly from the Synthesis of Yoga, the Cosmic Consciousness and Oneness. Yeah. Anything more? Any last comments? Anyone? डेट्स डाल के भी चाय बड़ी अच्छी लगती है, बाय द वे, नाउ दैट वी आर एट इट। If you
Okay.
if you actually put two dates and keep your chai for some time with those dates immersed, so after some time the dates give it a little bit of sweetness, and I'm realizing it's quite nice. I've tried it a couple of times.
With milk? मतलब दूध
या
की चाय?
प्रॉपर बिल्कुल, आप दूध वाली पियो, पका
Okay,
पका पे
okay.
पियो, बस उसमें डेट डेट बाद में डालो आप, मतलब जब आप
या
सब
ये भी कर सकते हैं,
Okay.
पेपर
डेट एक
घोटाला
बार
कर
डेट
सकते हो।
खाओ और चाय पियो, डेट
हाँ,
खाओ और चाय पियो।
वो भी कर सकते हैं, अपनी टू ईच हिज ओन। Yeah. So make the tea, and then when you're putting it in your cup, then at the bottom of it you can put some dates and let it be for some time. So that gives it sweetness. Yeah. हाँ जी, और कोई मीठा करने के चाय को तरीके? ओके, तो आज यहाँ पे खत्म करते हैं फिर, and sharing, dedicating all the goodness, all the merit with the innumerable sentient beings who are all wanting to be happy, wanting to be content. May we all be truly well, truly abundant, and truly, truly happy. May we have discipline and courage to walk this very long and arduous path of self realization. May we not forget why we are here. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.